Welcome, everyone, to Watching Movies with April and Kenny. I'm Kenny.
I'm April.
And we have special guest...
Samantha!
Hey!
Yay!
And chronologically, when these episodes come out, this will be the first episode that you're on, because our commentary track will come out after this. We lead off with a discussion, and then if people are interested, they can then...
I'm just going to say right now, no one's going to be interested in watching this movie.
Spoilers for the discussion that's coming up. Okay, so we are talking about 2001, A Space Odyssey, and what an odyssey it was.
Yes, it certainly was.
This was made in 1968. This is a movie that I feel weird about, because it's like, who needs to have this introduced to them? Like, even people that haven't seen it, like, you know of it, right? You knew of 2001 before you watched it.
I definitely heard the title, but that was literally all I knew.
That's all you knew?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea, like, the reputation the movie had?
No, not even a little bit.
Your husband didn't have any commentary?
Oh, well, when you said we were watching this, he was like, that was like the most wasted 2 hours of my life watching that movie. You're going to hate it. You're really going to hate it. And he was right.
Well, okay, so I don't know if we addressed this in our commentary track when we watched this. Why did Ted watch this movie? Under what circumstances did Ted watch 2001?
I don't know. I'm sure somebody told him...
It does feel very antithetical to Ted.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody told him, oh, you gotta watch this.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure he did, and that was it. It was terrible, so...
Well, good for him for sticking it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as I said, director Stanley Kubrick.
Yep.
An actual lunatic.
Dude sucks.
Abusive piece
sucks
of shit.
Yeah. Unrelated to the movie, but he does suck.
Yeah. It's, the unfortunate reality of films is that a lot of them are made by horrible white men.
Bad people.
Yeah. And, this is no exception. This is one of them. But he also just coincidentally made some of the most influential films of all time. This is one of them. You probably know this. We always talk about the cast ahead of time. You almost don't have to talk about the cast for this movie. You've got, of course, Keir Dullea.
Yes.
As Dr. David Bowman.
Smoke show, Dave.
Yes. We'll get into that later on. But he really hadn't been in anything else. He hasn't been in anything since. One thing I like about this movie right off the bat is that I like a movie with a bunch of no names that you've never heard of before. Mm-hmm. It's like so many movies now, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, look, it's Chris Pratt as the Chris Pratt character. And this is just a guy, and he is this character. That's all he is. Mm-hmm. And to me, the only other really notable cast member is Douglas Rain as the voice of Hal, the AI. Mm-hmm. I think he does an amazing job. Again, it's like the only thing he ever did. He was a stage actor as well, but I think he nailed it. Can we agree that the voice of Hal did a great job?
Yeah.
I'm going, Dave. I'm going, Dave.
Exactly.
Yes, for sure.
I'm scared.
Okay, so before we get into our actual discussion, taglines. Do you have a tagline for us?
Well, I wanted to say I wrote down a couple things, too.
Okay, please.
I did, a little bit of research on it.
Fine.
It won an Oscar for Best Effects.
Which
I agree with.
Can't disagree with.
Yeah.
Stand up to this day. They're so good.
It's got an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes from audiences and a 92% from critics. So generally, people really like this movie. Generally.
Samantha is
maybe
making
not
a
in
face.
this room, but generally.
This room has a 33% certified fresh rating from critics.
And then a little bit of trivia was at the premiere screening, 241 people walked out of the theater and said, will someone tell me what the hell this is about? Generally, they were very confused. And someone said, if you understand 2001 completely, oh, this is Sir Arthur C. Clarke. They must have worked on the movie or something. If you understand 2001 completely, we failed. We wanted to raise far more questions than we answered.
So they didn't know what it was about.
And then he later expressed some concern that the film was too hard to follow and explained things more fully with the novel. Okay, so this is the guy who wrote the novel.
Yes.
Yeah.
They worked kind of simultaneously on the novel and on the screenplay.
The movie came out first, I think, but it was kind of done in conjunction.
Yes, they're meant to be. It's not like it's a book that people love. Let's make a movie out of it. It's like a joint project that worked hand in hand. It is funny because before we sat down for this discussion, you and I, Samantha, were talking about Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth. Yes. Gideon the Ninth you loved. a lot.
Great, yes.
Harrow the Ninth is kind of giving you, it seems like the same kind of vibes that we're talking about here, where it's like, please, sir, I would like some more book, please.
Please explain yourself, because you're giving me no explanation. And it should be somewhat familiar, because it's one of the same characters, but it's not. And I hate that.
Speaking of Harrow.
Harrow, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it has a similar thing where it's keeping you in the dark on purpose. It's not letting you know everything.
That's very much not Samantha's
I
vibe.
hate that
That's
so much.
not something that you like.
Yeah, it's true.
Makes sense.
It does raise questions whenever you run into something like that. It's like, is it keeping me in the dark on purpose, or is it just shitty?
Exactly.
I can't tell.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I guess we'll get into that.
And then there were some real taglines for this, and one of them was an epic drama of adventure and exploration. And then another one was the ultimate trip.
That's
Makes
not
sense,
bad.
yeah.
That's not bad. Of the taglines we've read so far, those are fairly accurate. What was your tagline?
241 people walked out of the theater after watching this movie confused as fuck. Will you be one of them?
That's funny. Mine is kind of similar, actually.
Oh, yeah.
My tagline is, do you love or hate hard sci-fi? This movie will answer that question for you. Kind of the same thing.
No.
It's like, this is a polarizing movie, I feel like. You watch it, and this will be like one of your favorite movies of all time, or one of your least favorite movies of all time.
You know, shockingly, I'm kind of in the middle.
Wow. You're literally in the middle, too.
Ah.
This is very good. Okay, well, I guess we can get into some analysis. Did you have a tagline?
No, mine would be, what?
I was going to say, so you walked away just...
One of those dumbass people that walked
That's
out of
not...
the theater.
No. See, that's why I wanted to come back to my tagline for a second, because I want to clarify that. When I say, do you love or hate hard sci-fi, this movie will answer that question for you. That's not me judging people who don't like hard sci-fi, because I totally get it if you don't like it. But this movie will be a dividing line between people who like that or don't like that. If you like science fiction, like not sci-fi fantasy like space operas and Star Wars and stuff, but like hard science fiction, you have to like this movie. Like, you have no choice. It's part of the club. So yeah, I mean, let's get into it. You just rewatched this movie.
Yeah, I rewatched this morning because it had been so long since we'd watched it.
We recorded our commentary, which will be coming out soon, a long while ago at this point.
So I was
Months.
like, let me just rewatch while I write down my analysis, because I remembered like 4 things happening in the movie, and I thought for sure there were other things to remember, but really just like 4 things happen in the movie. But it was a good reminder of what exactly happened.
So you're saying 4 things happen in the movie. So as a challenge to both of you, what are the things that happen in the movie? Give me a broad overview.
Ape uses a tool.
Yes.
Monolith on
The
Jupiter, was it the moon?
On the moon, yeah.
And then the
Sent
Jupiter
signal to
mission.
Jupiter, yeah.
The Jupiter mission, and then the ending, which is the whole thing in itself.
Yes, we can get to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, the movie very helpfully divides itself into different parts.
It does, yeah.
I
It
really
has the little
enjoyed...
title cards.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching it with both of you. And the first thing is that you get an overture. You get music for 5 minutes straight. And both of you were like, what is happening? And then you get a title card after this interminable amount of time, and it says The Dawn of Man. I seem to remember both of you going, what? Going back to your tagline.
Right, exactly.
2001: A Space Odyssey. We start with...
The dawn
This movie's gonna last a long time.
I like how in your face the movie is with how slow it's going to
Oh,
go.
God.
There are no
Yeah.
pretenses. It's like, this is what you're in for. Buckle up.
Like, obviously, the director and writers were just, like, laughing about that behind the scenes. Like, people are gonna hate this.
When I rewatched it this morning, I timed it from, like... I think I started after all that music, and I timed it from... So it opens on the apes and that whole situation until they go into space. That was a full 15 minutes of that. No dialogue, and the no dialogue continues for another 10 minutes.
When you're traveling in space.
Yes,
and
until
docking.
the flight attendant lady talks. 25 minutes in the beginning of the movie where there's no dialogue. And also, this is, I don't know, a spoiler, there's 23 minutes at the end of the movie where there is no dialogue. And when you add up all the bits and bobs of no dialogue, there are 88 minutes with no dialogue. That's about 60% of this whole movie is nothing.
Wow.
This is a movie that could not be made today.
I agree.
You could not make this movie today, which kind of makes me sad. It makes me, like, I think this, I mean, you know, this is showing my hand, which I guess I already have. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it makes me sad that this movie you couldn't make this movie. I guess you could. It'd be an independent thing.
Yeah.
You could not release this to a wide audience. The idea of this being released to a wide audience is really funny. Because I think about in modern day, you have a movie like Annihilation, which I don't think either of you have watched.
Nope, I read that though.
Nobody watched that movie. It's pretty good. Amber is a huge fan of Annihilation, the film.
Is Natalie Portman in that?
Natalie Portman is in that, and so is Oscar Isaac.
Oh. Ooh.
Yes. Yes, he is also in that. It's kind of a Star Wars reunion in a way.
Yeah.
Prequels and sequels. It's good. It's good. But it does share this thing of it takes its time. It has some 2001 vibes of you're like watching things and you're like, what is happening? That movie bombed so hard and it just
And you
makes
think that's
sad.
why?
No, I think
Because it was slow?
Yes. I think it bombed because, you know, you can't, when you talk about it with your friends, you can't say, oh, this action scene was amazing. There aren't action scenes. It's not a horror movie, even though I think it's very scary with a lot of things. This movie kind of falls in the same vein where it's like, it's not a horror movie.
But kind of it is.
But it kind of is a little bit. This is my favorite kind of horror movie, which is a cosmic horror movie. And probably the best version of that, I would say. But yeah, it just starts off, the movie just slaps you in the face and says, guess what? We're going to be taking our time with this shit.
Buckle up.
I like those timestamps of how much time is spent in
That was
silence.
very well done.
You will be spending a lot of time in silence.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a fair warning for your listeners.
Just a heads up.
If you're going to watch this,
yeah.
you got to be comfortable with some silences. Or uncomfortable. I don't know if the movie's like
But-
inviting us to be comfy.
The music in this is really good.
Yes.
And I wrote down that, so again, I'm getting ahead because, so the opening part is, you got apes, and then a monolith appears, and the apes, like, touch the monolith or whatever, and that music is building around when they see the monolith, and they're, like, going crazy. That music really, like, freaks me out a little bit. It, like, gets into your body.
Both
and,
of you
like,
reacted to that when
gives
it
you some
happened.
anxiety, which
Yeah.
is good.
The monolith in general, I find to be a very creepy thing. And I seem to remember reading about they had different design ideas for what the monolith
I
would
wrote
be.
something about this, too.
And I'm so glad they went with what they did. Do you have your
Yes.
notes?
So the initial idea for it was that it was like a transparent screen that would show them how to use the tools as weapons.
Awful.
Or tools and weapons.
Awful.
And eventually they landed on the monolith. And I wrote that down because I was like, Kenny would have hated a screen. Like, and it's much
So
more...
what do I do with it?
like a YouTube tutorial
Yeah.
video.
How awful would that be?
It's
I
a
would
lot...
have been like, oh, that's what it's for. I like this. Thank you
Yes.
for explaining.
Do you think you
That's
actually
so
would have liked that
hard.
more?
I don't know.
It's
I don't think I would have
definitely-
cared. I would have been like, because I feel like one of the apes. Like, what is this for? Like, what is that thing doing there? I would have loved it, I think.
It's definitely a lot cooler to have this, like, inscrutable, just black stone. Like, it's a cooler visual than a screen, I would say.
It is much cooler. And to me, it very quickly communicates the idea of, one, it's artificial. You know that as soon as you look at it. It's got these harsh right
Like,
angles.
perfectly formed.
In this natural landscape. It's like, right angles don't exist in nature. And there's not even houses at this point in the dawn of man. So you see that, you know it's artificial. And yeah, it gives you nothing. It's like completely void, no color, no surface, no nothing. And that's what this species or whoever made this thing remains to us for the entire time. Like, inscrutable is the best word for it. Like, there's nothing for you to read there.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty neat. And I think, Samantha, you would have to agree with me on that one.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yes, I'm very glad they didn't go with a screen and the YouTube tutorial. Hi, welcome in. Today we're doing a tutorial on making bone
Welcome back
weapons.
to my channel!
Here's how you defeat those watering hole bitches over there.
Before we start, this video is brought to you today
Click
by...
that like and subscribe.
So, like, is the monolith supposed to be like God? Like, you're just guessing, like, this is what God wants me to do after, like, everybody interprets God differently.
We can get into this at the end because I read some interpretation.
That's my only idea is, like,
That's a cool interpretation.
everyone thinks God is something different.
That's a cool interpretation.
This monolith could be whatever you think it is.
Yeah, it's blank. You can project onto it what you want to project
Right?
onto it. Wow, Samantha.
God, I'm so deep.
You got it.
Fuck you, Stanley Kubrick! I know what I'm talking about.
Can I do a brief interjection here?
Stanley Kubrick doesn't even know what this movie's about.
My brief interlude here is speaking of YouTube videos, there is a breed of YouTube videos that is ending explained videos. The ending of Inception explained. Which it's like, sometimes there are movies where it's like, yeah, we should have a debate on what the ending means. And then there are some where it's like, what are you talking about? Because I've seen videos like the end of Back to the Future explained, and it's like...
What's there to explain?
It's
And
very
Dullea
clear.
Bond explained
Yeah.
she defeated them in court.
Yeah, it's very clear. And then there are some movies I think are like this, where you can have your own interpretation, and I think that's fun. But to think that, oh, I've solved it, this is the definitive answer
Yeah.
to what this movie is kind of missing the whole point
Right.
of the movie.
Right. They wanted everybody to say, what?
Yeah, you want to think about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's... And maybe it's fun to think about, maybe it's
Some people
puzzling.
want to think about it. I didn't really want to think about it either.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so...
So the apes
I
learn
mentioned...
how to use weapons.
I
to
mentioned
beat
the same
shit
thing
out of
that you
each
did.
other.
I said the music for the monolith is absolutely creepy ass, Lovecraftian, cosmic fire, awesome. And I guess before we move on, when someone says Lovecraftian or cosmic horror, what do you think of? What does that put you in the mind of, or what do you think that
I
means?
think of like giant tentacles coming out of the sky, basically.
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I guess I've never really thought about it before. I don't know. Deep space. Loneliness.
Yeah.
We watched Color Out of Space not too long ago. That's kind of
I don't know that one.
Oh, okay.
Color
It's
out of space?
Color Out of Space, yeah. That's a Nick Cage movie. Pretty intense.
So really deep. Then.
It was good. I kind of think of that when I think of...
Nick Cage is so hit or miss.
It's true.
What you're going to get.
Hey, we should watch Pig. I hear that's really
Pig
good.
is supposed to be very good.
You should watch Con Air for this.
That's what I want to watch next.
That's April's next idea for a movie. So.
Not Face Off, or have you already done that
Casey.
one?
No. Oh, Face Off.
Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation. I think about things that are unknowable, things that are so much vaster than humanity, than our own brains, that we're not even
Literally
equipped.
can't.
Yeah, there's no way to. And just facing that is, like, scary in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So yes, the dawn of man ends. The apes learn how to use simple tools. We get the most famous jump cut in all of cinema history. The ape throwing the bone up into the sky, and it flash jump cuts to spaceship.
That was cool.
And both of you commented, having never seen the movie, knowing nothing about it, you're like, I think you were both like, whoa, look at that.
We were like, thank God.
Yeah,
Okay,
we really
we fast
spanned some
forwarded.
years.
Thank God we don't have to sit through all of the intervening time.
And it is telling you something about, like, the movie is wanting to say something about humanity and our relationship to tools and technology. So you get the bone,
The
tool weapon,
evolution.
Yeah, you
turns
said
into the
that,
spaceship, and then the second act of the movie, the most famous act of the movie, with Hal and the Jupiter mission, we have the AI Hal, which is also a tool created by humanity. So you're just seeing that continued evolution of technology through time. Just amazing, right? Just
Loved
great.
it. That's part of the movie. That transition right there.
And then
After that, things really went down.
So, what did you both think? Because next, as April was saying, there's the ballet music of space travel. So, what did you think of that depiction of space travel? Because we get that for, again, another, 20 minutes after that. Were you utterly bored while that stuff was playing?
I wouldn't say I was bored. I think if I'd seen this in 1968, I'd be like,
That's
holy
what I was
fucking
just
You'd be
going to
shit.
jizzing
say.
your
I think
pants.
I was bored, but we're so used to seeing all the effects and ideas.
If you had no
of-
computers-
but if
Yeah, that'd be
if I
pretty
had never
fucking cool.
seen anything with the rotating like hatches and things that you can get into or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen so many things like that, but yeah, if that had been the first thing I saw like that, it would have been super cool.
Definitely. It's funny, today I was watching a review of The Matrix Resurrections, which is going to date this podcast horribly by the time it comes out. But they're reviewing The Matrix Resurrections, and there's a lot of complaints that the action and the effects are not very impressive. And the guys who were commenting on it were saying, but how can you impress people? Like, when The Matrix came out,
That's true.
that's like the last movie that was like, wow.
They were very true to the old Matrix action movies. I think when I was watching it, it felt just like the other ones.
But now that feels dated.
Right.
It doesn't feel
but
like...
did they do that on purpose? Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think kind of the same thing goes here, where it's like, you do kind of have to put yourself in the shoes. It's not like the effects look bad, and you're going to notice it. It's more just like, you're not going to have your mind blown by the effects like you would have at that time.
Right.
And the same thing like Star Wars, the original Star Wars, like, you can still watch it and a lot of the effects still look great, but like imagining watching that in the 70s is like crazy to think about.
Right.
I feel like going back and watching things like Star Wars, because now, like, Star Wars specifically, when I think about it, I'm like, so those first three, quote-unquote, first three movies, you have a lot of practical effects and stuff like that. And then you get into the prequels, and there's CGI was starting to become a thing. Like, CGI was the cool thing. But, like, now you look at CGI, and I'm like, but if I see more practical effects, I think that's cooler. So I feel like we're kind of going in a circle here of, like, going back on the CGI a little bit and trying more practical effects. So, like, that makes me like this movie even better, I think.
I think so, too, because when you see something practical and you can see that it's real and you know they did it for real, it's like watching a real stunt, too, where it's like, you know, modern action movies where people are, like, falling for hundreds of feet, it's like, whatever. And then you watch a movie where, like, that's... I don't watch a lot of these, but I've watched a lot of the effects of the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies where he's doing all those stunts himself, and you know he is, and it's like, holy shit, this is nuts.
Yeah.
At Universal, Ted and I went to one of those little... inside one of the little theaters where it was an actual stunt show. It was the Bourne... something. I don't know. And there were people actually doing the things. It was really neat.
Yeah,
They're on
fun.
stage, like, flipping around and climbing buildings and falling off. It was cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why, like, we're going on tangent after tangent. the Disney live action movies, I wish they would do away with all the CG and shit, and instead just do, like, a Hamilton-esque musical performance and record it, and, like, having that feel that would feel so much more real than what they wind up doing in the live action stuff. Okay, so practical effects. That was my question there.
Yeah.
So Space Ballet. Again, you thought the first part was slow. Just doubling down on it.
Well, this part gets interesting, though, because there's a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, we get our only element of plot in this section of the movie. And I remember this was happening, and you two gripping this plot like drowning women.
Oh my god, something's happening.
Yay.
Yeah, so we get a man going to the space station and then going to the moon, interacts with a few people from Holland, the Netherlands, somewhere else, and they're having like this sort of friendly conversation, but there's a little undercurrent of mistrust and like, what the hell's going on? And they're asking him questions about an epidemic on the moon, which is like, whoa, relevant.
Like, we're in a pandemic right now, so...
The only things I wrote down for this was that, one, I think we should bring back the transatlantic accent. Hilarious, love it. Two, this is Dr. Haywood Floyd. He calls his daughter, who does not give a single shit.
No.
Loved her. And that the sets...
Hey there, dear. I got you a present for your
Enjoy
birthday.
your birthday party. Okay.
Say hi to your mother.
The sets are pretty cool. I really liked like the chairs and tables and stuff in this part.
Very of their
Very
time.
neat. Liked that.
Yep.
And I wrote that I got interested in this part of the movie. There's kind of a mystery.
Definitely. I loved the portrayal of realistic space travel. It's slow.
It's so slow.
Precise. It was really cool. And I love the choice of ballet music for it. It's like this delicate little dance that you're doing. Thought it was super cool. Yep. Epidemic on the moon. Gasp. Like some real plot element going on here. But we very quickly move past that and learn the truth, which is that the epidemic is a cover story. There's been a discovery on the moon.
Which is a weird cover story. Don't you think? It's like, I guess that they want to keep people away.
And that would be a good way to do it.
But it's like,
there's a
isn't that
potential
worrying?
alien virus.
Yeah.
Like, people would not be super excited about that. And we find out another monolith. Bitches.
Cue the music.
Yep, we get it again. I wrote, this shit gets me so hard. I love the idea, again, like, you know, you encounter the monolith, it's very artificial. It is buried on the moon. They said it's like 40 feet underground on the moon. So you find it and it's like, what has been here? Like, it really gets your brain racing with
How
the possibilities.
long ago
Yeah,
was it
recently.
there?
And we know we have a bigger scope. So whoever left the monolith at the dawn of man then left another monolith on the moon, waiting for us to achieve space travel, get to the moon. So whoever's doing this or whatever's doing this has a very long time scale of how they're thinking about things. So, very cool.
It's God.
And then boom, we get into a completely different movie.
Uh-huh.
The Jupiter Mission.
Jupiter Mission.
And my hunch, remembering our viewing experience together, this is the part of the movie that you two liked the most.
Yeah.
And I think in general, this is the part that people
stuff
remember.
happens here.
This is the most movie part
Yeah.
of the movie, is the Jupiter Mission. And what we have is an incredibly iconic spaceship, this long series of connected... It looks like a potentially real... Because like when you look at the International Space Station, it doesn't look like a spaceship. It's just a jumbled mess of components. And that's what the Jupiter spaceship looks like too. And they're going somewhere, presumably Jupiter. Turns out to be yes, that's where they're going. We get some more realistic stuff.
For what reason?
We don't know. Probably something to do with that monolith, I'm guessing. We've got 2 people on board who are awake, and everybody else is in cryo sleep, waiting to get to Jupiter. So 2 people are running the mission, along with HAL 9000, an artificial intelligence. And in my opinion, the best, most accurate, and scariest depiction of AI in any movie. Way scarier than Skynet, way scarier than the machines.
iRobot.
Wow, yeah. Potentially, I don't know.
I don't know.
Scarier than the Matrix. Like, I think because it's so real. I did write down, there are 2 depictions of AI that I think are the scariest and the most real, and those 2 kind of go hand in hand. There's this, and there is, let me make sure I got it right, Metalhead from Black Mirror, which I don't know if either of you have watched this. To anybody listening, check it out. It doesn't have great reviews for some reason, but it's a Black Mirror episode set in a near future where we don't know what happened, but there are these robot dogs that are just like trying to kill people. We don't know why, and the world's gone to shit. And they accidentally wake one up and is just trying to kill them. And it's just like, that's how
That's horrible.
That's how it would go if things went wrong. It wouldn't be like Terminators with like guns and like full scale. It would be just like, run for your life, you're screwed. This one is a very good AI, I think. And to give a little bit more of the plot, you're on the mission, things are going along. Hal talks to Dave and says, have you ever had any doubts about the mission? Dave's like, no, why do you ask? And immediately Hal's like, we've got an error on this dish, this component outside. And then things just kind of escalate, this mistrust between Hal and the humans, and then eventually things break down. So what did you both think about this portion of the movie?
I thought that there was sexual tension between Dave and Hal. That's what I thought. They seem a little... No, so Dave and his partner, Frank, they're starting to become suspicious.
Which is good, because we as an audience become suspicious. And I hate when you as the audience see what's coming and the people on screen don't. And you're like, come on. But then eventually you realize, oh, they're on to Hal. They understand what's going on. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they jump in that pod thing because they're trying to get to somewhere where he can't hear them. And I think they've, been able to, get out of earshot or whatever, and they're discussing, saying that they don't trust him or whatever anymore. But then it keeps cutting back to the house red light, and then he's looking at their mouths, reading their lips. And I read something about...
It's very good wordless storytelling, because it doesn't tell you, oh, he's reading their lips. It's very clear what's happening there.
Yeah. I read about this and I didn't write it down, but someone complained that they didn't think it was, very accurate that an AI could read lips, and then very soon after, they were like developing technology for a computer to read lips. And
totally.
he was like, oh, well, never mind.
Yeah.
Like, that's definitely, yes.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, any task a human could do, you can get a machine to do it eventually. So if you want to be proven wrong, just say that there's something that a machine can't do, and you'll be proven wrong shortly.
Oh, Lord. So, yeah, Hal figures out that they don't trust him. Yeah, and so he yeets Frank into space, basically.
In a very scary series of...
Yeah, the zoom in on the red light, like, while Frank is out there trying to, quote-unquote, fix.
And all the silence, and just the sound of breathing in space. Like, the music has been so good in this movie. This movie is also very good at using silence and just ambient noise to ratchet up the tension.
For sure.
Space is scary. You don't need to do a lot to make space
Terrifying.
Scary. Yeah. So that's all good.
How do you feel for Dave? Because he's all alone.
And he goes...
Yeah, he goes out immediately
to
try and save
and
Frank.
leaves
his helmet.
His coworkers on board, right?
Yeah.
And
another very creepy scene. This is a very specific reference that only old people will get, probably. Do either of you remember a sitcom called News Radio?
Yes.
There was a weird, episode of that show which was set in like a sci-fi future of News Radio, and I didn't know this at the time because I was a little kid, basically. But they are parodying 2001, and it ends this alternate future of the different characters in these pods, and someone disconnects them, and they all their vital signs go out.
What?
So this is my first experience.
What a bizarre parody for news radio to do.
It was really strange, and it was one of those things as a kid where it's like it's creepy because you don't understand what's happening,
but it's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. And so that was my first exposure to this scene, and it's horrifying in the brutal simplicity and the brutal calculation of all these people are threats to the mission. Dead.
Yeah.
Noiselessly, no words. We've never even seen these people.
Right.
They're just gone. Never wake up from this mission. And then we get... this whole section is just filled with so many iconic things. We get one of the most famous lines in the movie, "I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave," when he says, "Hal, open the pod bay doors."
Uh-huh.
And he's just like, "No, sorry, not going to do it for you." And then Dave manages to break back into the space station. This is probably the most unrealistic part of the movie. There's a great YouTuber I like called Rob Miles, who is an AI researcher. And he was talking about, speaking of iRobot, he was talking about Asimov and his stories that he wrote. And he said, the most unrealistic thing about these stories is that things go wrong and then they get fixed at the end. He's like, in a real world scenario where a super AI goes rogue, no amount of cleverness or bravery is going to fix the problem. You're hosed if that happens. But it's a movie,
So, what exactly is Hal trying to accomplish at for this mission?
Good question.
Is he trying to get them to Jupiter?
The way I interpret it is, yes, he's trying to fulfill the mission, and he sees the biggest hurdle to achieving the mission are these unreliable people.
Okay.
He's like, I know what to do. I can get this done 100%. If the people disconnect me, that's the only thing that could stop me. So I need to stop them first.
Well, spoiler alert, he does end up disconnecting Hal, but he also ends up going to Jupiter.
Yeah. And that's why I say, if you want to be this is the Neil deGrasse Tyson in me, it's actually, that's not how it would probably happen. And so, yeah, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to be Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I just wanted to make sure I understood. I thought that Hal was trying to make sure that they made it to Jupiter. But...
That's how I interpret it.
Okay.
His whole thing is, I'm trying to fulfill this mission. These
Can't trust
humans are not as reliable as I am, so I just need to kill them all. And he asks Dave, I see it as the inciting incident here. He's like, Dave, have you ever had any doubts about this mission? And Dave's kind of hesitates and is like, no, absolutely not. And I think that's when Hal's like, this guy, I can't count on this guy. I gotta kill them both.
Even though he loves him, he's got to go.
The ultimate sacrifice.
Hand on the cheek. I'm so sorry.
And then we get maybe the creepiest part of the movie, which is the disconnecting of Hal scene, which is super well done. There's a part where the movie really takes its time, and I think it's just very creepy. You were referencing the lines earlier, or you were, Samantha.
Yeah.
I can feel my mind going.
Yeah. I'm afraid, Dave.
Yeah.
And people, there's no answers. There's no correct interpretation. Is Hal really a sentient being who is, actually feeling something right now?
Or is he trying to get him to stop?
Or is this a strategy to get him to stop? Very unsettling. And
scene is so slow.
It's very slow.
Turning
removing the components.
Turn the next one slow. Every scene
very deliberate.
Very slow in this movie.
And then you get Hal singing Daisy at the end.
Terrifying.
As the voice goes.
Very creepy.
Ugh. So creepy. A sweet shout out to the University of
Urbana,
Champaign. That's because at this time
it was made in Urbana.
UIUC was a huge forerunner in computer technology. So good for us.
Yeah.
And then the regular movie stops, and then we go into something else.
Just colors from
There's
now on.
the wild trip
Yes.
from the tagline.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We go into
Crazy.
some Willy Wonka boat scene shit, and we travel through tunnels of light.
A kaleidoscope.
It's just colors.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to stop eventually, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Also a
Very long shot, and then back to Dave's face,
Oh, yeah.
contorted, real creepy, and then a long color shot, back to his face.
I think it's my favorite part of the commentary, as a little spoiler. Both of you had very visceral reactions when they cut to Dave's freeze frame, his distorted face.
I think I blocked his face out of my memory because I don't even know. All I know is it took way too long.
It took a long time, and then even when they get to whatever the destination is, it takes a long time, panning over, where they're at, and the colors, again, there's a lot of color in this part.
And we should say, this whole sequence begins with the ship arrives at Jupiter, and we see a monolith in the orbit of Jupiter. We get another cool, alignment shot, which I don't take literally, it had to line up. It's just, everything is coming together now. All the pieces are here.
Yeah.
Humanity has arrived. The monolith is here. This is the time for humanity to do whatever the hell is going to happen right now. And then you have that long sequence, which I think, if the idea, in my head, it's trying to make you feel like an infinite time has passed. And an easy way to do that is to make the sequence last a fucking long time. You feel like at the end you've gone through something.
So is it supposed to be him, the traveling to Jupiter? Or is it him...
From wherever he is to wherever.
That's what I was unclear at. What does that represent?
That could be.
He's transforming somehow?
In my head, it could also be... Because what happens after this is another telescoping, which is him in the hotel, or whatever you want to call it, and him rapidly aging. In my head, I always saw these as being kind of the same thing, where it's just him experiencing a huge amount of time.
Right.
He's going beyond the infinite, so he's living
his body can barely handle it.
And he's living millions of years of real experienced time, perhaps. This kind of forced evolution.
Exhausting.
That's one way to interpret it. But there's just a lot of ways to think about it. So he winds up in this very weird green hotel room and sees himself at different stages in life until he's an old man.
Another slow scene where he's just walking around, looking at stuff.
Yeah. And then you see him eating in this room. I always interpret this as he has done this literally for thousands of years, just living in this room.
Just lived there forever, yeah.
Infinite time to think. Mm-hmm. Until he's eventually dying in bed, and then who should arrive? Mr. Monolith is here again.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
It's me, Dave Bowman. And he reaches out to it, and then we get the
giant baby.
Which
very interesting ending.
If I'm remembering right, Amber loves this movie. I know that much, but I think she doesn't like the last shot of the baby.
Why?
Over the Earth. I think in her head, it's too obvious. It's
everything about this movie is really obvious.
Yeah, really on the nose. In her, it's okay, humanity is reborn as a new cosmic fetus, ready to begin its journey among the stars. And she's I don't need that.
Okay.
I don't know what you would do instead.
Right.
What's
just
the end of this movie?
Right.
Yeah, right.
to get that point across.
Yeah, if that is the point, Again, debatable.
A new dawn of man. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Dawn 2.0,
Yeah, I mean, we're taken all the way back
to the apes.
Yeah, exactly.
We get a music tie-in from the beginning as well. That same, like, triumphant, I don't even know what the score is, but it's just classical music. It's the kind of thing. This was a movie that, when we watched, you were both like, oh, this is what that song's from.
Right.
Oh, this is what that's from. It's one of those movies that
Yes.
has seeped so much into the culture
Right.
that even if you've
I
never
think
seen
we referenced History of the World
Yes.
part
Oh,
2
yeah,
in the very
that's right.
beginning.
Yep.
That's right.
it, definitely.
Didn't realize that's where that scene
Right.
came from.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's great, right?
So, do you want to talk about, like, interpretations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I just looked at a Wikipedia article of, like, interpretations, and it talks about... Did you read the book?
No, I have not read the book.
So apparently the book explains things further, and basically it was like the first
Actually
monolith.
just tells you.
The first monolith is like teaching the apes how to use tools and weapons, and the second one is like a signal that shows that we've
There's
achieved
further
space
intelligence.
travel, so we can do this now. And then the other one is like how you can travel interdimensionally or whatever. And so apparently that's what that third one is.
That's all fine. I like it much more it not being spelled out for me.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's just, evolutionary steps, according to that. But it's up for interpretation, and this is what Kubrick said. In a 1980 interview that remained obscure until being rediscovered in 2018, Kubrick explained the intent of the film's ending. Godlike beings of pure energy and intelligence place the astronaut in a human zoo where he passes his entire life with no sense of time. After they eventually finish with him, he is transformed into some kind of super being and sent back to Earth, transformed and made into some sort of Superman. It is the pattern of a great deal of mythology, and that is what we were trying to suggest, according to Kubrick.
That feels to me like when a band I like, I read the lead singer's interpretation of the lyrics and I just want to puke. There's a reason you leave it open. But it is good that he has an idea of what he wants to communicate and then says, I'm not going to put all those details in. I think that's important. Because if it's just like nonsense on the screen, then that's what it's going to feel like. Just random. It's like watching Lost. Just random mysteries.
Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another perfect analogy.
Terrible.
I saw that there were theological interpretations, too.
And that seems to be the direction you want to go.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of what I arrived at, I guess, as we were talking about it. It's like, it seems very, like, oh, let's worship this. We don't know anything about it. We don't know how it thinks. We don't know what it wants. But it's obviously much
Far beyond
smarter
us.
and far beyond our understanding. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I arrived at.
I like that too. I mean, if you encountered something like this out in space, it's like, well, I mean, it kind of is God as far as you're concerned.
Right.
It's like Q from Star Trek. Like, he's an alien, but he knows everything and can do anything. So if he says he's God, who am
are
I
you to argue?
Yeah, what can I say about that? Yeah, I like not being told what is going on at the end of this. I mean, that interpretation, it fits in with what I'm saying, but like, if the movie told me all those things, like, do either of you remember a movie called Mission to Mars with Gary Sinise?
Mm-mm.
So
Mars Attacks just flew into my head.
Not
That's
quite-
not what you're talking
not quite
about.
the same. So in this movie, there's a mission to Mars, and the people land there, and they get a radio signal on Mars. They go investigate, and a big storm happens, and it reveals like a door in like this structure on Mars.
Ooh.
And they go and they send a radio signal to it, and it kills almost all of them, leaves one of them alive. Spoilers for Mission to Mars. And so they send a rescue mission, because the one guy is still alive. They send a rescue mission, they eventually land after having some adventures, and the guy who's been there has been analyzing the message and realizes it's code for DNA. So whoever left this left a message for humanity, and there's a little missing piece of the code. And if you fill it in with human DNA, finishes the code and the door opens.
Oh.
And then they go inside, and they basically like encounter a message left by this alien species, and they invite one of them to come on board the spaceship, and then it leaves Mars. Gary Sinise leaves Mars, and the last shot is him shooting into intergalactic space on the spaceship to go meet whoever these aliens are. It's basically the exact same plot as 2001.
Yeah.
It just tells you what's going on. And maybe you would like that movie.
Yeah, that sounds
very
cooler.
It's a cool movie. I do like it.
The question is, would you go if you were in Gary Sinise's position?
Definitely.
Probably.
You have to, right?
I would. I just had this conversation of just like, would I go do space travel right now?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, I would, for sure. So I definitely would do that.
No.
So you would do the mission to Mars, but you wouldn't just go...
No, I wouldn't do any of that.
If I was already there.
I don't even get on a roller coaster.
Samantha's like, I'm here already.
If I was there already,
I
and
might
that
as well.
opportunity presented itself,
I've
like,
gone too far.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
But-
Sure, yeah, if I got that far, yeah.
I guess my point is, it's like two different ways to tell the same story. Mission to Mars really tells you what's going on at every step of the way. And you find out at the end, you see the alien's like, come to my planet. He doesn't say this, but that's what the alien...
Come to my planet.
And Gary Sinise is like, oh yeah, I'll go to your planet.
yeah.
Wow. And this movie is like hitting the same notes, but letting you imagine.
It's a better narrative.
I think so.
I don't love to think very much, so I'd probably prefer that.
They're both cool. It just depends on what you like. It's a stylistic thing,
Right, yeah.
honestly.
Right.
Okay.
I love Gary Sinise, too, so...
Well,
that's
it's very good.
He's a national treasure.
It's also got Andy Dufresne in it.
Really?
It does.
Nice.
It's a good-ass movie, I'm telling you.
Never heard of it.
It's got Don Cheadle.
Huh.
Also great.
How old is this movie?
It's fairly old.
1968.
Early
just like
2000s.
2000.
Early 2000s. Mission to Mars. Go check it out.
Mission to Mars, okay.
Not to be confused with Red Planet.
Or
which-
Mars Attacks.
That's also... Okay, we should get into our final reviews here.
Mars Attacks next, though. Right?
I did rewatch that recently. It does not hold up the way you might hope. Okay, so are you familiar with these final reviews that we do?
No,
You're
I
not.
don't think so.
No episode has come out yet. So,
You've listened, right?
Yeah.
so we give it a rating. We give it an X out of Y. Whatever. It's just a made up scale.
Yeah.
And then we say, who would we recommend this movie? Who would we recommend it to? So I'll let April go first, and then I'll go. And then if you want to, you can give your own rating.
Okay.
So I rated this movie one giant baby. Scary, kind of annoying, and a little bit inscrutable. And I said that this is a movie for English majors or insufferable movie watchers / critics. You know, the type of people who love to dissect shit and think extensively about what it could mean.
I think we don't disagree at all. I just give a different flavor. I said you gave it one giant baby. I give this film the monolith. It is delightfully inscrutable while still giving you a story with characters you're invested in, Dave and Hal. You can just watch the middle section, and it's just like a cool short story that you can enjoy. The middle section is a total classic, but, you know, if you're into this kind of thing, you probably already know about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, my recommendation is... do you get perverse enjoyment out of contemplating your own existence, insignificance, meaninglessness compared to the vast space all around us, as well as the figurative vast space of intelligence and possibility? Then you'll love this movie.
And if you're Samantha, you'll hate it.
Yeah, so let's see. On a Samantha scale...
I give it 0 prides out of prejudice.
Exactly. Like, my number one movies are wonderful narratives that end well, like Pride and Prejudice or The Mummy.
You like clear story structure.
Exactly. Very into narrative, very into good endings. I like mystery, but I like it to be solved.
Solidly drawn characters
Yes,
that you
yeah.
can relate to.
Right. So this is like 0 stars for me. Maybe half a star. I liked Dave. He's cute.
Dave is cute.
And immediately to my mind for who to recommend it to would be like English lit professors. When you said that, I was like, yep. This reminds me of every English lit class I ever took, where I was like, oh,
I don't
that
know.
was what it's supposed to mean? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a great movie. If I were going to like teach somebody the principles of close reading, I would like, here's a great movie
There
to
you
try
go,
your
yeah.
skills at.
If you like to think, you'd probably like this movie.
If you're
But
watching
I'm a
movie-
big dum-dum.
Yeah.
That's
If you're
not what
watching
I
a movie
think.
to relax, this is not the movie for you.
It's not like you guys don't like movies that make you think.
Well, I can't think of a movie that makes me think.
I mean, I enjoyed, like, Interstellar made me think. I really enjoyed that movie.
Which obviously takes a lot of inspiration.
It's very, yeah, that's true. It's very similar.
The robots are very clearly monolith. throwbacks.
Yes, that's true. They are.
Tars.
Yes, but like she solved a problem in that movie. Like Earth was dying, they needed somewhere to go. She figured it out.
There's also this family drama characters you can relate
exactly. And he was, reaching through time and space to send a message to her, which I liked. So.
And you thought about it afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So some movies I like to do.
I also like sci-fi, but
I do too. Not exclusively or not all the time, but sometimes it hits right. So,
yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dune's good.
Dune is good. Don't think you'd like Dune.
Well, I watched Dune.
Did you like Dune?
The new Dune.
Yeah.
I watched. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was
interesting.
Very
doesn't really have a
stylistic.
story structure.
Not really.
That's what I watched it with Ted, my husband, who hated 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we got to the end. He goes, "That's the end," and I was like, "I think there's more. Yeah, there's more movies." He's like, "There better be because that is very disappointing." And I was like, "Yeah."
Well,
so.
I still felt like stuff happened. But...
Spoilers for the rest of it. The rest of the book Dune is not going to make you feel satisfied at the end.
Well, it was still neat to watch, though.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
That's one I still need to watch. Well, thanks for joining us today, Samantha.
Yeah, it was a great time. Let's watch a better movie next time.
You're going to come back for The Mummy when we watch The Mummy.
Oh,
obviously.
yes.
I have a lot to say about that.
Absolutely.
Only compliments.
We just do a marathon. Mummy Returns, Scorpion King.
Yes, I am so in for it.
Oh,
but not the new Mummy.
No, of course not.
That one doesn't exist as far as we're concerned.
All right, well, until next time, thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sometimes, winning a game isn't about dealing the most damage, or drawing the most cards, or making any measurable contribution towards victory. But hey, just because you don't have the stats doesn't mean you're not a f***ing gamer god, alright? Enter The Intangibles, a podcast on the Geekspective Network, where me, Kenny, and my brother Matt break down all the things that are hard to quantify in games. All kinds of games. We're talking classics like Sonic's the Hedgehogs, and chess, and 3D Pinball Space Cadet. Great game, by the way. We're talking new releases like...
Insert latest trending games on Twitch here.
Single player, co-op, competitive, card games, board games, role-playing games, play-by-mail games, the Wakes. We do deep dives into our favorite games, digging into the intangibles that make them great and the intangibles that will make you a better player, and hey, maybe even a better person. Check out the intangibles on whatever the heck platform you're listening to right now.